progress. Of course, there's an opposite Kabbalistic tradition,
Right.
which is the one that got popularized today under the term Tikkun Olam. It doesn't mean anymore what it used to mean.
Right.
But what it used to mean was that over a period of time, through people doing mitzvot and doing good things, then the world would progress to the point when the Messiah would come. And that seems to be a pro-progress argument. But then again, much of the sort of Lithuanian Yeshiva type Jewish tradition always assumes the so-called Yeridat HaDorot, that the generations are really getting worse, which also has that fairness doctrine problem,
Right.
if we can call it that. But I was just thinking jokingly when you were talking about what would have happened if Moses would have been able to use a computer, a word processor, when he was working on his work. I mean, he was denied that opportunity.
Right.
So we have a lot of points on the table. Since we have such, high-level players here, I would like to spend a little bit focusing on what you agree, what you state, which I agree is a very key point here, and that is, according to classic Jewish theology, God is eternal, and according to many players in classic Greek philosophy, God is eternal. And I say that's a fundamentally flawed metaphysics. It's an incomplete metaphysics. It's not metaphysics, it's theology. So if you want to theological and say God exists, fine, but don't delude yourself that this is metaphysics. So this is a very key point. However, I say you can have it all. You can have Jewish theology and you can have a metaphysics. But you must say, and this is after several decades of thought on my part, that quest for potential is the eternal spark, and quest for potential is the core of the divine. So it's a two-step.
But then where did that come from?
Okay, so and that's correct. Where did that come from? And in my humble thinking, it's easier to posit that a dynamic which I call quest for potential is eternal, as opposed to the classic God of Israel. That's from my perspective. That's from my personal subjective perspective. At the same time, I say that quest for potential at the core of the divine, and one can finesse the two if one wants to, and say they're simultaneous. Quest for potential and the God of Israel are simultaneously eternal, but it's clear that in my mind, the initial spark is this concept which I'm proposing, quest for potential to infinite power. And I spent 2 books developing this theme. It's hard to do it on one foot, on regular achaz, in this symposium. But yes, correct. That is the big hole which I find in classic Jewish metaphysics.
You have to ask the question, where did the quest for potential come from?
Fair enough. And I deal with that issue. And I deal with that issue over the 2 volumes. and that's what metaphysics is all about. I make the case over the course of 2 volumes, particularly over the course of the 2nd volume, that I can make a case that this quest for potential, or Q4P, shorthand Q4P, is the eternal, overarching cosmic spark. And the question is this nonsense? Is it narishkeit? Or is it the key to the Holy Grail? That's what this discussion is ultimately all about. That's what Summa is all about. Is it narishkeit nonsense? Birnbaum dreamt up this omega force? Or does this truly seem to take us to another level of understanding of metaphysics? Now, no metaphysics, in my humble opinion, with all due reference to David Birnbaum, can solve everything. In my humble opinion, I won't say it again, humble opinion, the goal is to raise our understanding another level, to strip away another level of understanding. If we achieve that, we achieve a lot. Why can't we achieve everything? Because we are ultimately finite, notwithstanding our Jewish mother's opinion of ourselves. And it's hard for us to get our arms around the infinite, especially if we're dealing with the evolving infinite, which is more infinite at the end of the discussion than it is at the beginning of this discussion, or even more infinite by the time I finish the sentence than the time I started the sentence. And this is my goal. My goal is to strip away a layer of the cosmic code. It turns out to be very uplifting. Why is that? Well, to get to your points, what is our goal? What is my goal? What is your goal? In my humble opinion, our goal is to reach our individual potential. if you, Lawrence Schiffman, were born with 190 IQ, you have a different obligation and test for potential than the person who's not so fortunate. Okay?
Assuming you're right.
Assuming I'm right. Maybe it's higher.
Probably lower. Probably lower.
No, get back to your point. So the goal of a person born, under the gun in the Middle Ages in a hovel in the middle of nowhere has a different cosmic goal than the person like yourself, possibly born in more gifted circumstances. So there is a relativism in quest for potential.
Of course, we can actually observe that in our own time. You take a look at somebody who's born today in Afghanistan and somebody who's born today in New York. And I think the fairness argument, it seems to me, falls apart on some level when you just see that that's the way the world is.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Right. And why is this theme potentially so powerful, Q4P? Well, because it would seem to potentially elegantly finesse all these interrelated problems. By one stroke of the mallet, you crack all these interrelated problems. What are the origins of the cosmos? What are the origins of the divine? What's the purpose of the cosmos? What's the purpose of the divine? What's the purpose of humankind? And why is there evil if there is a divine? And how we address all these individual questions, of course, I address them more frontally in the book. But this one stroke, this one hit, potentially solving all these issues simultaneously, in my mind said, well, this metaphysics may or may not be correct, but it certainly seems to be elegant. It certainly seems to be sort of a place at the table. Now, I'm not aware of any other metaphysics which seems to finesse all these issues. It may exist, but I'm not aware of it. If it exists, someone should tell me where it is. And so you can say to me, how is this possible? You're saying that you're the only guy who comes up with an elegant, interrelated metaphysics after X thousands of centuries. Well, my response is, well, that's why I wrote the book, because I could not find it. That's my little polemic for this portion of the symposium.
Well, the question of why there are no such inquiries is a wider question, I think, because in reality most people gave up on this inquiry.
So let's address that issue.
That's really the problem. I think.
And why did they give up on it?
I think that they gave up on it partly, in Jewish terms, they gave up on it, I think, to a great extent because of the Holocaust. And I think they also gave up on it when modernity replaced the medieval period. I once heard a long lecture about this by my teacher, Alexander Altman, who in certain indirect manners is Micah's teacher. You got his set of books that he had there on his shelf all the time, right? But he addressed this once at a conference, and he basically explained that there was a shift from what was religious philosophy in the Jewish community to what they called Jewish philosophy, which is really some form of thought. And what happened is that beginning with the rise of many of the modern thinkers, they basically ran away, leaving maybe Mendelssohn out and a few others, right? They ran away from the philosophic method. Now, there are a lot of problems with the philosophic method that you hinted at before, that it's very outdated because we don't necessarily agree. For example, it's based on certain scientific principles. We don't agree to all kinds of things, but there's a good reason to run away from it. But if you don't substitute another one, some kind or another, then you have simply to say, well, we don't know, I can't answer any of these questions, and then you got guys writing just their own opinion, like why did people die in the Holocaust? I'll write whatever I want, right? Because there's no discipline anymore.
Right.
So I think that the systematic approach was lost by us in the transition from the Middle Ages to modernity. And then there's one other thing, in the Orthodox part of the Jewish community, which is so much of the best brain power doesn't bother with this stuff because philosophy is always the intersection of the Jewish and the non-Jewish.
Right.
And the minute you think that the non-Jewish, who cares what Hegel said or something like that, right? Who said, right? Then you're not going to have this kind of thought. But I want to return to...
Wait, hold on. I want everyone to focus very carefully on what was just said. This is by the chairman of the Jewish Studies Department of NYU, who's saying that Judaism, or the Jewish academia...
It's not academia.
Okay. You fill in the blank, basically gave up on the systematic approach in modernity.
I don't know if they gave up, they lost it when the transition took place.
Let's hear the full phraseology.
I think they lost it when the transition took place.
They lost it.
Many things happened in the transition to modernity.
And roughly in what, just for the audience, roughly in what time frame is that?
Well, I think it's like this. I think it starts with maybe 15th, 16th century with so-called late medieval. I think there are a few holdovers. Mendelssohn is probably a holdover. I don't know, you would say he's a holdover, trying to do the systematic type of thing like many non-Jews were still doing.
He's not a systematic.
Oh, wait, keep going. And where does...
But he refers
modernity,
to in the philosophic.
Okay.
You're right, because he's already the German
Don't
philosophic.
digress. Modernity starts 15th, 16th century
Yeah.
through...
I mean, after Crescus, I think it's probably a fair statement
Okay.
to say, right?
Through
the 1400s.
through the 18th, 19th, 20th
Yeah,
century.
it's just gradually given up.
It's gradually given up.
Right.
Okay, this is a very strong statement. It's a shocking statement. Okay, but that's my perception. There's not even an attempt.
There's very little real.
I would just add one thing.
We're gonna continue. Let you continue where you wanted to continue a minute ago. Right?
I would just add one thing to the reason why there might be this decline in metaphysics, and that is this kind of what some scholars have talked about, this kind of changing ideal of knowledge, of science, and where science in the medieval and especially in the classical world, there was this kind of contemplative ideal of philosophy trying to grasp the whole, the totality, the source, the beginning, the first things.
Right.
Well, what happens in the maybe 16th, 17th, 18th century is there becomes a change in the view of knowledge, and science takes on this very practical, pragmatic dimension with what we now call technology, in the service of technology, and science is now about our controlling nature. And it's about our improving our life circumstances. And in that sense, the idea is that what can we really know? Well, what we can really know is what we can create. And things which we cannot create, we cannot really know. And you see this expressed in Kant, where basically he would say that, this, type of metaphysics, trying to understand the divine, well, this is a noumenon. This is something that we just have no idea about. And Kant has a very strong impact within the Jewish community, right? So this becomes the goal of knowledge in some sense, and the goal of knowledge in science becomes much narrower, much lower. It's about understanding nature. It's about understanding in the service of controlling nature. And there's a sense that our picture of science is always going to be changing. It's a progressive picture, and that we're going to discard previous models and move to new ones.
I find that metaphysics, or academic metaphysics, continually falls into the trap of trying to define everything. We define knowledge, we define understanding, and after they define it, they're sort of locked into it. Whereas, from my perspective, one should keep it simple, as if you're speaking to this 7-year-old kid. Don't get too complicated with definitions.